What's up, everyone? Blake here. Welcome back to another episode of the Fasting Lifestyle Podcast. I have another amazing guest for you guys here today. We have Jenny Roberts, aka Jenny Bliss Asana on Instagram. She is a fitness coach, yoga instructor. She's been plant-based for 12 years. She does intermittent fasting and so much more. We're going to get into all of that today. But first and foremost, Jenny, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the show. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm so grateful to be here in this beautiful day coming to you in Florida.
It is really nice. We're super spoiled. I know you and I both emigrated from the north, so it's always a blessing with this warm weather here at the end of November. And we were actually just able to enjoy a nice little festival together at the Tampa Bay Veg Fest. I had met you before then, but that was my chance to take your yoga class and to get to know you even better. And I was just blown away by how fun and challenging and the community vibe that you bring in your teaching. And I know that you have a whole origin story and backstory to what got you to this point. And so I want to get into that first, and then we'll unravel more of your journey as we go. So, what got you into being plant based in the first place?
So I had my gallbladder removed when I was 20 years old in 2006, I believe, um, roughly. And I was in college. I had digestive issues for many years already at that age, and it was just getting really bad. So, of course, I ended up going to the doctor, and they were like, "Well, you should get your gallbladder removed." And I was like, "Okay, I don't know anything at that point. I'm not at all interested in health too much at that time." I was playing Division I field hockey at Monmouth University in New Jersey, and I wanted to feel better. Was hoping that it would help. So, unbeknownst to me, I was eating McDonald's just about every night at that time. Usually the day would consist of 3 dining hall meals and at least 1 McDonald's late night run to get the 50-cent cheeseburger that they had for college students. So I just felt like I was always hungry and, like, I never felt satisfied with food. Like, I just felt like I was always trying to, like, make my digestion better, but instead of by eating less, it was always by eating more. So I I know now looking back some of the reasons why, obviously food quality, stress, and not chewing my food properly, to be completely honest, which is an issue, just stress of not eating right. So when I went and got the gallbladder removed, it helped a little bit, but it wasn't like a magic bullet or anything. I still felt like I had issues and I wasn't feeling good. And I gained a lot of weight, like at that time in my life in my 20s. I was at least 40 pounds heavier than I am now. And I didn't really like that too much at the time. I wanted to feel better and I didn't want to constantly have to think about dressing for my body type or like feeling a little uncomfortable in my body. So, that was always going on, and then the way I found plant-based was in 2012, I think it was. I was in film school at Ohio University. I went to get a master's in filmmaking, and I spent a lot of time behind the computer, sitting, making a documentary, and I would just cycle through, like, Diet Coke, Gatorade, and water, thank goodness for the water. Just all day long sitting at this desk. I'd watch Netflix on my breaks. I would go to the gym and run occasionally and stuff, but the food choices were very bad at that point. A lot of frozen meals, inexpensive meals, no really understanding of any of that. And then one month I was like, all right, I'm going to eat healthy and I'm going to see how that feels. I'm going to see if it does anything. Cause at that point I was considered in my own mind overweight and I didn't love that. So I was like, all right, let me see what happens when I eat healthy. So started eating like salads. I would like take the cheese out, like, those like basic suggestions. You'd have like turkey instead, all that stuff. And about a month and a half or so went by and I didn't notice anything. I didn't feel better. I didn't look better. I didn't nothing. Like there's nothing changing. And I was like, this is stupid. So one night I was watching The Walking Dead and I had finished the full series at that point, which was only like season 3. Like we're going way back. So I was like, it's over. What do I do? And I got the next suggestion on Netflix, or I was looking through Netflix and I saw Forks Over Knives. So I'm one of those that saw Forks Over Knives and my mind was blown. I watched it and I was like, "Oh my god, everything that I've been doing is pointless to try to eat healthier because I'm not healing my body. I am putting junk into my body. I'm causing myself to have more digestive issues. I am setting myself up to have a better chance of diseases like cancer later in life. And my grandfather had died of colon cancer prior to that pretty recently. So I'm like seeing all of this and I'm like, oh, okay, let's reduce those risk factors. And then I was also just like, why am I eating animals? This is so weird. Like, I never thought about this and how strange it is. And like, meanwhile, like, was learning how long it takes to like digest meat versus like vegetables and fruit. And so the reason why this was really helpful is because in that movie in particular, they showed you people eating a whole foods plant-based diet, low salt, little to no sugar, all the whole foods plant-based stuff. So there were some foods in there that weren't like raw or anything like that, but they were like healthier foods than what I was eating. So I immediately the next day got rid of all the food that I had in my closet, and I literally went vegan overnight. I didn't know anyone who was vegan. I didn't know what it was, but I was like, "This is so cool." And so I looked up recipes. They were offering like the Engine 2 used to have like 7 meals that they offered on for free on a website, and I downloaded all of them and learned to make food. I learned to eat at Chipotle, and within like a month, my professor was like, "What's going on with you? You're like glowing. Something's different about you." And then within I felt better instantly to tell you the truth. My digestion was improving. I started losing weight without trying. I didn't work out or anything. I just followed it every single day the best that I could. I liked it. It made me feel empowered. And within 6 months or less, I had lost 40 pounds and I felt great.
Hey everyone, hope you're enjoying the podcast. I wanted to interrupt real quick just to let you know that I just published my new book. It's called The Fasting Guidebook. You can get your copy for free via the link below at my website, fasting.lifestyle. Just enter your name and email address and you can unsubscribe anytime. Also want to let you know that my community, Fasting Academy, is up and running. We are live. So if you wanted to take your fasting practice deeper and employ some of these amazing practices and changes into your lifestyle, then go ahead and check that out. For the first 100 members of the community, it's going to be at a discounted rate. So help me fill those spots and get a super good price on my community. And without further ado, let me let you get back to the podcast and I will check in soon.
I just followed it every single day the best that I could. I liked it. It made me feel empowered. And within 6 months or less, I had lost 40 pounds and I felt great.
I love how you say that it made you feel empowered. I think there's something that I'm starting to learn more and more about this way of life, the plant-based way of life, and, especially fasting and stuff is you do feel more empowered because you're taking your health into your own hands. And there's something magical, for lack of a better term, that happens when you take responsibility for yourself, when we start
Yeah.
putting the work in. It's like you literally are taking your power back from something that you felt helpless against.
Mhm.
And that energy, on top of the healthier diet, it just starts to create this, the opposite of a vicious cycle, like a great cycle. And then people are noticing, your professor was like, "Yo, you're glowing, Jenny. What's going on?" And you're like, hey,
Let
it's
me
like
tell
plant-based.
you.
You got to get on the plant-based lifestyle.
Mhm.
And that's an amazing origin story. And I had kind of a similar origin story in a sense, but just in different spurts throughout my life. My kind of like big thing was I was extremely overweight in high school. And then I lost like 100 pounds in high school.
Mm.
and it wasn't with plant-based, but it was with the whole foods diet,
Yeah.
um, and intermittent fasting. So very similar there. And I have a friend, and she actually also got her gallbladder removed. And she was telling me some of the challenges that come with that. So would you feel comfortable sharing, like, what is a gallbladder? Why would the doctors tell you to do that? And
Yes.
like how you're feeling now on plant-based, because it seems like you're not having the same sort of I guess challenges that my friend was having. So I'm gonna send her this after after
Yeah.
I upload it, and maybe it can help her.
Yeah, good question. I'll do my best to explain it. The gallbladder, for a lot of people, I guess it gets removed due to more of an emergency situation, like there's an issue, right? Mine was not working properly. So they went in and did all of the exploratory stuff to find this out. And they just said it's not working. For some reason, your gallbladder isn't doing anything it's supposed to do. Your gallbladder just helps you to digest and break down your food. I'm still learning how to understand it. Science is not my best. I know that you don't get when you get it removed, like your gallbladder makes bile, and without that, it's very hard for you to digest at a normal pace. So after it gets removed, it goes through you quicker, the food that you eat. So you usually go to the bathroom more frequently, which I think is better than the other way. Like, if you have food that's backed up, you feel a lot of pain in your body. So that's, I guess, what I was experiencing if I had to try to guess or explain. I feel a lot of pain in my stomach when I was younger and for most of my life. So I don't feel that way. And basically, when you have your gallbladder taken out, they recommend a few things like don't have as much alcohol, maybe have red wine instead. Like, don't go too crazy with the fried foods and the fatty foods because now you can't break them down as well. However, because we removed it, I don't really understand it, but for some reason it's supposed to make it better. So like I said, food moves through you quicker, you're able to get through the digestion process faster in theory. And I guess they said because it wasn't working, it was causing like everything to slow down and it was causing a lot of pain. So that's why mine was specifically removed. And um, in the beginning, I felt like I could eat some new foods, maybe try it, but that didn't last. And what I would deal with a lot is acid reflux type of things, soda, thing like liquidized food, things that are like liquid are really hard. And I still struggle a little bit with some of that. But I will be honest, if I'm chewing food, like if I'm chewing fruit, that's going to be the best bet for me. A very light smoothie. I can't have necessarily like juices as much, a lot of dressing. So I still deal with some of that. There's a few trigger foods that I have, and I'm okay with that because when I eat a plant-based whole food protein source, for example, such as I like to have pumpkin tofu or pumfu, that's my favorite, or just tempeh, I feel like the digestive process is a lot smoother. It's not sitting in my stomach for as long as meat products. And so I can eat those without pain. And if I eat the foods that make me feel good that I cook at home, that's when I still feel the best to this day. But I'm okay with that because I have no pain at all, no issues at all, no digestive problems if I do eat at home, ever. It's only sometimes when I go out to eat because there's just so much that could be triggering. So I do think it's a journey, and I think that, like, that side is still to be determined, but intermittent fasting has really helped because what I learned when I decided to do it, it was also, some of it was aesthetic as far as shedding a little bit of extra body fat. Because even after all these years, I did maintain a very healthy weight. But I lived in Asheville, North Carolina with all the vegan foods, if you've been there. So sometimes, you're not always focused on your fitness, like, and how you look and all of that. I was doing yoga, but I wasn't like sitting there like too worried about my physique or anything. And no matter what you eat, and if you're overeating on calories and you're not sticking to whole foods plant-based and you're wandering around in the cookies and stuff, I mean, you might gain a little bit of weight or something might happen, and that's fine. So at that about that time when I got into intermittent fasting, I was learning about how it could help a little bit with losing weight, and it could also help me with my digestion because I'm not having to break down 3 meals a day all day long, eat, 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 eat. That's what I used to do, and when I described it in the beginning, I was trying to heal my stomach problems through, like, constantly eating these, like, small plates, but that wasn't really helping me. Like, it was just giving my stomach a break is, like, so helpful for me. I know that it allows me to sleep better, it allows me to just feel better in general, and it gives my stomach a chance to not focus on that for a minute and allows my body to focus on other functions and things that I can do. So yeah, as far as like the gallbladder, that's like definitely something interesting and everyone could have their own experience. But I think going plant-based and then on top of it, intermittent fasting, and then I would even add being willing and able to have a lifestyle where you can cook at home. Those are things that are all going to make a difference, and they don't all happen at once, and they don't all need to happen at once. But when you're in a lot of pain and you don't feel well, if you can take small steps for any of those things, the more that you can do it, the better you're going to feel.
You just dropped like so many bombs right there. Like I don't even know which one to focus on. I'm going to focus on a couple. So we'll just get into a couple of those things that you said because, I mean, whether whether or not you're dealing with any sort of gallbladder or any sort of like digestive issues, that wisdom right there that you were sharing, that's applicable to everybody. That's for everybody because let's face it, we live in 2025, Western society or, just the modern era for my viewers who are overseas or South America, wherever. Like, the water's not going to be the perfect quality. The air's not going to be the perfect quality.
Mhm.
The quality of the food is not going to be always super pristine. And so you have to nourish yourself intelligently,
Yeah.
chewing your food. When you're chewing your food, your saliva is releasing a digestive enzyme called amylase, which starts to break down the carbohydrates in your mouth before it even gets in your digestion. And that's beautiful for plant-based, especially plant-based proteins, because plant-based proteins also have carbohydrates and they also have fiber, which is a type of
Mhm.
carbohydrate as well. So
Mhm.
by chewing your food, you're doing, the pre-digestion in your mouth already. And so I think that's really great advice. And I wanted to ask you, like, it's kind of like making me hungry already because I always cook all my meals at home as well. And it's the afternoon here, so I'm going to be making my dinner
Mhm.
salad in a little bit. But I'm just so curious, like, what kind of stuff do you like cooking at home? Because I think everyone needs to learn how to prepare their own foods. It's you save money, but it's most importantly, health is wealth, right?
Yes. For me, I found the dish that I've been eating for at least 8 years straight for lunch. No kidding. I would rather eat this for lunch than go out to eat any day. And the way that I found this meal was through originally just trying a lot of different recipes. Like I would just cook things and hope that they would turn out. Some would turn out great, some wouldn't. And I did that for a while and then I started to figure it out over time, like what I liked and what I wanted to eat, which I still don't even know how that ever happened because I'm like, that's overwhelming at first when you're vegan and plant-based new and you're like, "What do I wanna cook?" You know? For me, eating the same thing every day for lunch has been really made my life easy, it's simplified my life, so I like the lentil stir fry, I call it. So, my lentil stir fry, everything's cooked separately except because I do cook my food, the tomatoes. I basically don't use any oil. That's a very important one for gallbladder. That's high fat, so high fat foods can be really difficult. All oil bothers me, every single kind. So, it's not just like seed oils. But, stir fry, I basically do chopped tomatoes with vegetable broth, low sodium. I saute them in a pan, and that's like a nice base. Once those tomatoes get nice and ready, I don't know, they just kind of cook up. And then from there, I add in everything else. I can even tell you the grams for some of it. I do about 120 grams of lentils, brown lentils. I put those in there. The rest, I don't remember the numbers, but it's green beans, kale, and then my tempeh is made with. I like to make it with coconut aminos, so that I make that separately, and then I add pieces of that in there. I think that's it. But then I put it in a bowl with romaine lettuce and avocado, get the nice healthy fats in there, and I have been eating that every single day with, like, one variation, which I used to use asparagus, instead of green beans for at least 8 years. Like, I may even be understating the amount of years I've ate that because I've lived here for, like, 3 or 4 years, and I ate it almost the whole time I lived in Asheville, so, I mean, we might be getting close to 10 years now of eating that, and like I said, I'd rather eat that more than anything else that I could see out. And I have some other favorites, but that's my top.
Yeah, that's very similar to what, one of the meals that I like too. And Brian was talking about that on our episode as well. So for everyone who doesn't know, you and Brian are a couple, power duo. And so Brian Bell has a show on the channel. So once you guys are done watching this, tune into that episode as well. And he was talking about, just eating out of bowls and constructing bowls.
Yes.
And I think that's just a smart way to cook and to prepare food. It's, when you're not only like when you're cooking from home, but you even mentioned Chipotle earlier. That's like one of my cheat treats as well.
Mhm.
But you just know what to get and what not to get.
Yes.
You don't get the sour cream, you don't get the cheese, you don't obviously get the chicken or anything like that. And then it's up to you on what beans you like. For me, I have less of the stomach gas type of
Right.
thing with the pinto beans versus the black beans.
Right.
And like how much quantities of each thing do you tell the attendant to scoop and stuff. So that's awesome, and I love that, you're mixing it together, you found what you like, it works for you, and I'm the same way, like, the salad that I'm gonna go make, it's the same salad that I pretty much make every single day, and what's interesting is, like, I've had some of my clients tell me throughout the years because they see me posting the same meal on Instagram every single day, it's either a salad or it's fruit bowl or something like that. And they're like, "Don't you get sick of the same thing?" Like, I think that if you have your bases covered according to nutrition and you're getting everything that your body needs from like 1 or 2 meals or whatever, no, I don't feel like this novelty sense to, be tantalizing my taste buds with a lot of different stuff. Granted,
Yeah.
I will have my little, meals,
Yeah.
like I love Indian food. That's probably like my biggest like no food that I have, once in a while. But other than that, it's the same as you, just a big old bowl of stuff. And so I think that's awesome. And earlier you were talking about how you were like a D1 athlete, and I think that's really awesome. And I see a common thread like in your story thus far is like you're just like you're very like kind of like nonchalant, but if you like read between the lines, it's like you get after it, like you take this information and you apply it to your life and you put it into action. So it's so cool to see that juxtaposition between like you're an easygoing, fun person, but you're also like a super hard worker.
Yeah.
And did your athletic background like help to set that discipline in your life? And how has that like impacted your journey having that structured I guess attitude?
Yeah. Well, first, I'm a Taurus, and Taurus, they do like their comfort, but the Taurus astrological sign has a lot of determination and heart. So that's one thing. My family taught me to value hard work. Um, Athletics were a big thing in our family, telling the truth, being honest, you know, things like that, being a good person for just being a good person, those were things that matter a lot, but definitely working hard and not giving up. And um, a couple different people influenced me and things influenced me. I always felt like I was the underdog. I think that came from just maybe my dad or different people's my mom, maybe their ideas of who they were when they played sports too, like overcoming adversity, like is this big thread. And they moved down us down to Maryland to a small town, and they let us know there's 4,000 people in this town and there's a lot of awesome people here and awesome athletes. But just so you know, if you were competing at a different high school where there's, 10,000 or however many students, this would be a lot harder for you to like step into. And you need to understand that you have to work hard for what you want in life, and it's not going to be given to you by circumstance. So when it came to sports, I always wanted to be really good, but I didn't think I was for a very long time and didn't have much confidence. And then my dad took me out in the backyard and he just started throwing the softball at me like as hard as he could. And I was catching it and I like didn't give up. And he was like, I can't believe it, Jenny. I'm like throwing the ball as hard as I can at you and you're still catching it. And I think that was like the biggest turning point for me as an athlete. And then I'm starting to believe in myself just a little bit. And then when I went to high school, our late field hockey coach, she had won like 8 straight championships for field hockey, and she influenced our entire town because it was like, I mean, they would joke and almost say it was like a cult, like Pocomo field hockey, because we were so into it, and all the girls played, and so of course I loved it, and I think she saw in me that determined spirit and wanting to work hard. So, yeah, she believed in me. She put me on the team as a freshman, and I eventually became like a captain. And she's part of the reason, like, it was always about following your heart or like playing with heart. And it was all like about your teammates. And, you know, that's really like important to me, and wanting to make her proud and my family proud, and just wanting to go out on my own and kind of like be a part of the greater world is how I ended up, going to New Jersey for college. And I had like that all planned out, and videography was another passion. So, that's where that all comes from. And just within me, there's like a quiet drive and determination, and I like to tap into that when I can for my health or sometimes to help other people, which I'd love to do more. But that's like, I feel like if I want to do something, I will do it. If it's really meant for me.
That's like straight up, like full honesty, that's like super inspiring to hear that. And I was raised very similarly in Minnesota. It's you've got to work just to do anything, especially during the wintertime. And it instills in you that drive, and it is a quiet determination, because I was raised Minnesota nice. Like I'll give you the shirt off my back in the blizzard. And
Yeah.
but it's like it's no arrogance or no cockiness about that. It's just like, like you do what needs to be done. And I
Mhm.
think because like I was maybe overweight and then I kind of had like this glow up, so to speak, that I always had that underdog mentality as
Mhm.
well. And I don't know if you ever had this experience, but like when you start to build that confidence in yourself and then you start to succeed and prove it to yourself, and maybe even, you know, in a sports match, you beat the opponent, and then it's like, wow, like, maybe I'm not the underdog anymore, and you start to
Mhm.
really really believe in yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing. Did that, like, you said you really wanted to help people, and you kind of like, you're like smiling from ear to ear, and I'm like, kindred spirit, because
Yeah.
like I love teaching and I love helping people. And so like, is that what got you into being a trainer and yoga instructor, or?
I think being vegan kinda set me up for it. Like, once I started
Yeah.
to take care of my health, I started to, like, care about myself more. Like, before I went vegan, I was really, like, depressed and sad, and I drank more alcohol too, and I, was hurting my body without realizing it and wasn't very mindful. So I had a lot of great qualities, and, I was doing the best I could, but I didn't treat myself with as much respect. I just didn't understand what that really could look like for myself. And so once I changed the way that I ate and I started to notice, like, okay, like this way a way of life that I've chosen is also like better for the planet. I'm not needlessly harming animals in this particular way. So it made me look a little bit more around, a little bit more sociologically, a little bit more like, okay, like open up a little bit more. And so when I found yoga, it was seemed like pretty aligned in that same way of wanting to connect with people, and to continue to believe that I deserve a chance to share and teach and to have an energy exchange with people. When I found it, it was in Asheville in 2017, and I actually found it through a really fun practice called booty yoga. So we were dancing, going crazy, having a good time, and I learned over time to find my own rhythm through practicing yoga. So I like to incorporate flowing movements with like, more basic vinyasa, nice music, but not I'd say, like, my classes have a lot more lyrics and music than your traditional, but not like what I started out with, which was, like, a lot of rap and, really high energy music, so we would move to the music very quickly and stuff like that. So it was a cool training ground, and it was all of a practice of self-love and looking at yourself in the mirror while you're practicing, and a lot of times you're in a sports bra or shorts and you have to just, like, accept yourself, and I loved that about it. I thought it was so cool to really just focus a little bit more on loving exactly as you are versus trying to alter, change anything. And so then when I kind of moved a little bit away from the booty yoga, mainly just like physically, it didn't resonate as much. I wanted something that was more gentle on my body, and I ended up creating kind of like a style-ish of yoga called Blissasana, and that was that more medium to lower intensity flow, which includes some rhythmic, move to the music type movements, and really all about feeling good in your body, like whatever that could mean and look like, whatever feeling bliss, that's what I'm always going for when I'm teaching, opening that door for the student to have their own experience. Sometimes that might be more of an emotional release that they have, like crying at Shavasana or something like that. They're like opening their heart. Other times it could just be lighthearted fun, or like you were mentioning, like connecting with community. A lot of my classes will circle up and put our arms around each other and do tree pose or things like that. We'll look into each other's eyes, and I just think that's important because, I will be honest, when I'm out in the world, I'm very much just focused on what I'm doing. I'm usually looking at what I'm doing in the store. I'm personally always working on trying to open and be more like aware of this like community that's always there. So I think in my classes, I bring that up because it's something I need to work on and something that I care about and something that I want to do more. So if I can practice that in class, maybe it can help me and help other people like find that way too.
When I took your class, I definitely felt that team captain vibe. You know, you were leading, but you were like leading from the front, if that makes sense. You were like participating, but leading at the same time. So you didn't feel separate from the class. I think some yoga instructors, and not that this is bad, there's different
Right.
approaches, but some yoga instructors, they're just instructing. And it doesn't mean that you have to do every single asana with the class, but you felt like you were integrated in with the class, and that just made it more of an immersive experience for me. And I think that's a really high level ability for a teacher to be able to do that. It just in what I've seen from the yoga classes I've been and I've taught, it's challenging. It's definitely
Yeah.
challenging to do that. So,
There's so
and
many
then yeah,
different thoughts on like how you teach, and a lot of people would say that if you are taking the class with the students, you're not able to look at their form as much or instruct. Like, I do care about people's form, but my primary concern is how they feel and not micromanaging every single asana that they're in. So I do go around sometimes and make adjustments when something either looks like an easy fix, something that I could share with them that could help them so that they don't have to do it that way again if they don't want to, or like a try this moment. And when I work with someone over time, like if I'm seeing someone frequently, which usually happens at an apartment complex that I work at, I see the same people. I'm able to make those adjustments over time in a very, I'd say, like, less aggressive way, and I think for me that works. But when I take class, I enjoy both styles. I enjoy sometimes them standing up there and telling me what to do, and sometimes I enjoy them doing it with me so I can feel like we're all together. So it's such a cool insight. I know that when I'm taking it with people, I can feel it better in my body and know where to go from what we're I'm an intuitive instructor. I don't show up with these like very strict plans. I follow my intuition. I follow the energy in the room. And I trust that because I feel like it's never failed me before. I mean, that's one thing I'm very confident about is that I don't know where any of that comes from. I don't know where any of us get that creative ability. It's very strange and awesome. And maybe I think maybe we all have it, but unless you've taught an intuit like a yoga class intuitively, you might not have known what that feels like. It's a very interesting and cool energy exchange that you get to have, and you just have to trust that what you're thinking is right to do couldn't be wrong because it's coming from your heart and you're not just like making it up out of like just structure, you know?
That's exactly how I felt too. It's like when I first started, I had to have it all structured out. And then like it got to the point to where like I would, I would mess up or I would forget, because I would become more immersed and I would be walking around and you kind of lose track and whatever. And I would just start making stuff up as I go when I would lose my place or when I would forget. And I had
Yeah.
a couple fumble moments, and forget what I did on one side and for the other side. But then you get to this point to where it's like you build this teaching muscle and you can just freaking do a whole class just out of intuition for the people that you see, and it ends up being the best class ever.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really high level skill. And I wanted to touch on that. We were talking about the community piece,
Yeah.
and then I want to tie that back into like you were saying that that's something that you're working on yourself. And I find that so honorable that you say that because, from the outside looking in, I see Jenny Bliss Austin on Instagram and I see all these beach yoga classes, you're doing nature walks, you're doing vegan walks. Um, we're going to be talking about your retreat that you have coming up. So I see you crushing it. And I think the fact that you said that you're still working on it just goes to show that you maintain like a humble approach and that we can all lean on each other. And that's literally what we did in that class that day. We were leaning on
Yeah.
each other
Yeah.
and you had us do tree pose where we're standing on one leg. It's so much easier
Yeah.
standing on one leg when you have your arms on everybody's shoulders and nobody fell.
Yeah.
And I mean something as small as that, it just made something click in my mind. But in the plant-based realm, like let's say that somebody's going plant-based, like, but they feel alone or something, or they feel like they're the black sheep of the family, or that it's hard, because I kind of went vegan overnight too. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I tapered down, but once I made the decision, I made the decision. But I know that doesn't happen for everybody. How can they feel that sense of community?
That's a really good question. I did not have that sense of community in the beginning, and I did not I did not feel like I needed that at the time because I was so excited about it and like so stoked. And I was so convinced that there was like nothing anyone could say to me. Like, when you're really new to it too, you're like telling everybody about being vegan, and they're like, okay, well, I'm happy for you, girl. Like the ones that are nice, right? They're like, I think you're doing great, but I think I'm good. And you're like, okay, that's fine. So, I mean, I think I have to say, I've said this to people before, and I know it didn't hit or resonate for them because we're all different, I guess. But I feel like if your why is so strong, like if you really, really want to do this for your health, or you really, really want to do this for some reason that really matters to you, you just have to stick with that and keep coming back to that first and foremost. Rewatch the movie if you need to, look up stuff. We have so many more resources even now than we did when I started. So, you can look up anything to support your reason behind it so that you can stay convicted. That is the whole idea, and stick with it so you can get your results. if you're looking for more community, especially like as you go through it, it can be really annoying when like I mean, there's been a few times where I've told people I'm vegan and I could just feel like they were like, "Oh, I'm good. Don't want to be friends with you." Like either they instantly felt judged or they judged me, which is probably a normal human reaction, like no diss, I guess, but like some people don't respond that way. So I guess what I'm saying is you'll get a lot of judgment from people. You'll get people that don't understand, and that's gonna happen. But looking for people that do understand and finding people in your area or online is a good idea. So, we do like a vegan walking club in Tampa and St. Pete. It's free. We just started that. That would be like something to look for in your area, like some kind of free potluck or something like that where you can talk to people. Definitely online communities. There's a lot of Facebook pages, and even if it's just posting like people posting their favorite restaurant in like wherever you live, whether that's like Georgia or like Massachusetts or DC, whatever. If you can find one of those Facebook vegan pages, for example, you can at least see that it's normal. Like it's normalized for you. So that's like a sense of community in a really soft, indirect way. Um, and then, yeah, those are the main things. Like, I mean, going to like a vegan retreat or a vegan festival, like fruit festivals or different things that are around, are only going to make you feel, again, more normalized and less like you're this outcast. But at the end of the day, like, you do need to be a little bit comfortable with being different. It's extremely important because even when you go to a festival, there's gonna be raw vegans, there's gonna be people that eat a little bit more loosely. I don't wanna be dissing by saying junk food vegan, but I think we all know what that means. There's gonna be people that are very health-minded, bodybuilding, this, that, the other. And then within that, people have all different beliefs. Some are sober, some aren't. I mean, the list goes on, political beliefs. So being vegan is just another thing that you can make you feel like it's a very smaller part of the population, but if it's something important to you, you need to stick to your convictions and be comfortable with as much as possible letting other people have their beliefs and their thoughts too. And you can influence them by example and through factual information when it comes up. And that's the best that you can do. And just try to keep an open mind and stick to what you believe in. And yeah, just get into community when you can.
Exactly, and be strong in your why.
Yeah.
Like how you said, you were so excited. I was excited too, and I just started just my friend calls it fire hosing, where you're just shooting information at somebody like I'm raw vegan and I eat all this other stuff and everything. And I've kind of calmed down on that a little bit, but that's how I found, the Tampa Bay Raw Vegans was just through it was either Facebook or Meetup or
Yeah.
Eventbrite or something like that, and then it turns out, when I went to the Texas Fruit Festival, there were some people from Tampa there, and they were like, "Hey, there's this really cool couple named Brian and Jenny. We're Brian and Michelle, but there's another Brian," and it's like, "Oh my god, such a small world," and then, we came together and it's like, "Oh, you know Blake? Oh yeah, I met them here." It's like, "Oh, you know
Yeah.
Susie? Oh, you know Brian? You know Jenny?" And it's
Yeah.
like, and we don't all have the exact same views, I'm sure, but
Yeah.
we're mature adult people and I just feel so blessed to have like friends to where I don't feel as much like the outcast, but don't get me wrong, like I will go into a pack of wolves waving the plant-based flag. Like I really
Yeah.
don't care because the proof is in the pudding. And that's kind of segueing me into another question that came up. And I'm not sure if you met my friend Josh. He was interviewing people at the Veg Fest. This is something that we've talked about on our show as well, because he's a personal trainer as well.
Yeah.
And when we were at the Veg Fest, you can kind of imagine it as like a lot of booths set up and really cool, like
Yeah.
presentations happening and cooking demonstrations and food trucks and your area where you're teaching yoga. It was so cool. But you get a good cross section of the different types of plant based people,
Yeah.
whether it's more of like the looser with their food choices or the super strict or somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that, and I want to get your take on it. Like, I don't mean any disrespect by saying this, but there were plenty of people who were probably not making the best food choices, and it kind of showed that maybe their
Right.
health wasn't the best. Like, do you think that, just in general, that maybe that vegans could, if they're not doing like workouts or anything like that, that it would help them to start thinking about becoming more health conscious and more fit because, even though it's vegan food, it might not be the healthiest. And it seems like there's this kind of like disconnect there. They're vegan for the animals, but they're kind of like hurting themselves in the process.
Right. That's a great question. So I always see it as connected, like your health, the health of the animals, the health of the planet. If you can focus on those three things, it's all the same thing, right? Because in the middle of that is health. Now, again, for a lot of people, it's going to come down to not being violent against animals, or maybe environment is their key thing. So, still, the health of the planet, the health of the animals, the health of the person is still there with health in the center. But we do have to remember that they may be coming from a different why, their initial why. So their initial why was potentially, I saw, these animals in the back of a truck. I felt horrible to participate in that. And so they may have started off with their excitement, not really thinking about healthy food choices. And now it's like, oh, I got to change all that too. So it may feel to some
Mm.
people a little bit inconvenient or unnecessary. But again, I feel like if you look back to the health of all three of those things, then we have to be as healthy as we can, I think, as vegans to to represent it better so that more people will be interested. If we are stronger, fitter, healthier vegans, we're not falling into those stereotypes that are out there, which I guess like are being extremely malnourished, or maybe some people have the impression of like a skinny fat or overweight vegan, but more I think it's the normal impression is like very underweight and malnourished without any muscle. So that doesn't, and that's someone's choice, or if that's their body type, they're welcome to continue that. And no, they don't need to change that if that's what makes them feel the best or that's what they want. That's fine. But if for some reason they want to focus on their strength, that does kind of show like that's possible too on a plant-based diet and being vegan, and that you're not giving anything away. Like that's something that I from the beginning always felt like, yeah, I'm giving something up, but I never really felt that way. I felt like I was getting something in return. So I always made it a point and still continue to make it a point to non-vegans or even people within the vegan world that aren't into like I take the same approach to like fitness and different stuff. Whatever it is that I'm doing, I want to admit and show that it's hard work, but I also want to show like in a lot of ways it's really easy too. Like it's not this like impossible thing that's so hard, and I'm not necessarily like now because I'm vegan I can't be strong, or I can't do push-ups and pull-ups, or I can't do certain things because I have to have animal protein or certain things in my body. It's just not the case. You can have the physique that you want, you can have the strength that you want if that's something that you want. So I guess the point being, if someone isn't as much interested in the way that they look, hopefully they can care a little bit about the way that they feel and what their intrinsic health is more, um, just so that they're the healthiest they can be to do the activism or to continue to just live and be a vegan. Just living and being a vegan is great. Like without anything else, you're a living example of a really good choice. So if they can be their healthiest, then they're fueled up for those movements that they care about, the other sides to this, the environmental activism, the animal rights activism. The healthier that they are and that they feel, the better they are for showcasing it and for being the strongest version of themselves to continue to carry those movements out. So, For me, I chose to incorporate more strength training and, paying closer attention to my diet as I continued on. But I did start from whole foods plant based from the jump. So I had that information and that's what I was excited about. So I really did come from that place. And then I learned about everything else. And so my point is, you have to evolve a little bit if you want to be your healthiest, fittest, strongest self. It doesn't mean anything you did wasn't enough or anything, but it's like if you're looking to evolve and that's something you care about, if you do care a lot about your health and fitness, you're going to learn more things that you can do. Trying to do it all at once may be overwhelming. So if someone's already vegan, maybe the next step is something simple like experimenting with intermittent fasting or trying like one raw meal a day or just adding strength training to their week. Not all those things have to happen at once and they don't all have to happen at all, but there's a lot of ways that we can get a little bit healthier and help ourselves age better and again represent and be fit for this movement that we're all a part of.
Yeah, well said. They're going to be setting themselves up for success
Yeah.
if they're in the vegan for the animals or the planet or both of those things, but they're not necessarily taking care of the third of the trifecta, which is their own intrinsic health. I think that's a beautiful model. They're going to start to, unfortunately, those their choices are going to catch up to them sooner or later.
Yeah.
And you said something that made a light bulb go off in my head. And I mean, just this whole conversation has been so cool and so enlightening. Um, and basically, that is when you were talking about the stereotypes of vegans, that they're weak or skinny fat or malnourished, or some of them are just chowing down on the the junk food or whatever. Hey, those vegans out there exist,
Yeah.
and they're younger on their journey. Maybe they're a younger soul coming into this body or into their body, into this incarnation or something like that. We're lucky and blessed that we had our athletic background, and we had certain challenges that were the catalyst to make us have a really strong why. So, we do kind of have a leg up, and maybe that's why we're coaches and leaders, and we can help people. But maybe just to kind of like cap off that thought, and if you have any more thoughts too, is like you guys are doing a great thing. With being a vegan and just raising awareness that we don't need to be eating freaking animals. And, the animals eat 80% of the food we produce.
Right.
It's like, I mean, if you start learning some of this stuff and just how atrocious animal agriculture is, and how healthy you can be without it. And if you're worried about protein or B12 or omega 3s, like, don't even worry about it. Like, I can be a
Yes.
fruitarian and thrive. So,
Yes.
um, you guys are doing a good thing. Now take that. You're already farther than most people. Take that energy, take that vibe, stand even further in your power. Don't let anyone tell you that you're a weak vegan. Don't let anybody bat their eye at you or look down upon you or categorize you as this or that. And then now start to apply some of that passion that you have for the animals, and plug a little bit of that back into yourself. I,
Totally.
and and so, like, as you were saying that, I was feeling like really spiritually connected. And so, like, as we're wrapping up, I always love asking this question because, your brand is, around bliss. Bliss is a samadhi state in yoga. We're both yoga instructors. That's the last of the eight limbs of yoga.
Hmm.
It's the final frontier of all the breath work and asana and meditation that you've done. And then you reach this bliss state. Like, after going plant-based and then just progressing along your journey, do you feel like the plant-based lifestyle has helped open you up spiritually, or opened you up more so spiritually? And how has that played out for you?
Yeah, definitely. I went from a place of darkness and depression and unknowingly, I guess, abusing food and alcohol to cope with the stresses of life to creating a life where most of the stress that I feel is low level and maybe even self-created. I'm still working on that. But taking out a lot of the external high stress expectations of life and creating a more simple lifestyle. Um, Coming into a place where I understand how I'm a part of the whole and how I'm contributing to the whole in a really intentional way with a lot more conviction. Uh, I feel so much more connected to nature than I did before by a million. Uh, I realize that I am a part of nature and that I feel like I need to respect that role and to do my best. We live in a world now where we can make choices and there is some level of survival mode, but there's also a way to survive and thrive here, no matter what our situation is for the most part. If we really believe in what we're doing and if we believe in a plant-based vegan lifestyle, we can find a way to make it work, whether you're in a place that doesn't have a lot of abundant choices or you have a garden outside of your window. Like, there's so much available to us. It comes down to how convicted we are, how creative we are in solving the problems that are around us. Um, and I feel so much more of a bliss state on a more of a not everyday basis, but more regular basis because of choosing this lifestyle. And my awareness has just opened a lot. There's so many things that I see that I didn't see before, and there's so many ways that I wanna, like, reach out and connect versus go in here so much, and that's my natural tendency, so not hiding as much, putting myself in situations where community is required of me. That's why I do these classes. That's why I do vegan retreats. That's why I host yoga classes. I'm pushing myself out to be more social and more connected. And it takes effort and it takes intention. And that's all come from the plant-based lifestyle that I adopted that made me feel healthier, more loving of myself, and it made me love others more and want to learn to do that better. And I think that's one of my biggest like story arcs that I'll be constantly on for the rest of my life is like overcoming that and working to get a little bit closer to opening my eyes to community and being more like that because again, I think that that's one of my biggest challenges. And so I'm here for it though. Like I'm stepping up to the challenge. I'm not giving up. I'm not just staying here, you know? I'm willing to go out and try. And I know that there's always more. There's always this, there's always that, but that doesn't matter. It's like compare me to me. And I know that I've grown a lot thanks in part to, you know, the way that choosing this lifestyle has made me feel, it's healed me and it's helped me to be happier and a little bit more at peace. And I'm just grateful for that, you know?
And I can tell by your vibe that that gratitude and just that bliss is just oozing out of your pores. That glow has not dimmed whatsoever that your college professor said back in the day. You always have like a positive energy, positive glow about you, and you are just like a real person. You actually truly care. You don't have any sort of like ulterior motives. You're just a genuine human being, and I instantly sense that about you and Brian as well. And it's like
Yeah.
I feel like I became fast friends with you guys, and I'm looking forward so much, even though I just met y'all, to continue building this friendship and um, taking more of your classes. And so, tell the audience like where can they find you, and what sort of offerings do you have coming up? I think you've got some exciting stuff on deck.
Yeah, we have a conscious vegan retreat in Costa Rica in January. So anyone can come to that wherever you live. If you're vegan or veg curious or something like that, interested in plant-based, it's a fitness, yoga, and nutrition themed uh, environment that you go into. It's in the Caribbean of Costa Rica, and we also go on lots of excursions to waterfalls, beaches, and it's a great way to connect with people and connect deeper with yourself through all the modalities and just be in a beautiful place. Pura Vida. Costa Rica is so gorgeous and lush, and it's just a great place to reconnect with yourself, discover new things about yourself, and dive deeper into your plant based vegan journey if you're involved in that at all or interested in it. So that's January 24th through 31st in Coweta, Costa Rica. And it's a conscious vegan retreat. So, yeah, more info on that. You can hook up with us a variety of different ways, but I guess the conscious fitness, Brian's conscious fitness Instagram might be the easiest to find. Um, with me, Jenny Bliss Asana, that word's a little hard to spell, but if you see it, you can find it. And yeah, conscious fitness Instagram is a great way to look into that. We have a lot of other things locally in Tampa, and we have like vegan walks and we do different fitness classes. We'll be at some vegan festivals next year. And mainly, we're going to end up having a vegan retreat also in Florida in 2026. So, yeah, stay tuned for that.
Amazing. Florida needs more of that. So I'm so happy that you guys are going to be doing that. That's amazing.
Yes.
Oh, man. Okay, well, I will definitely make sure that we have all of those links in
Yes.
the description below. That retreat sounds amazing. And you guys go check out Jenny on Jenny Bliss Asana on Instagram. And it's been such a pleasure having you on and just, having that real like heart to heart conversation with you. And I know that whoever watches this is going to get just tons of value and just, feel great and feel empowered. And that's how I feel right now. And so just thank you so much for being on the show. Amazing job. And you guys, thanks for tuning in to the Fasting Lifestyle Podcast. And until next time, we will talk soon. Peace.
Mm, thank you.